We would like to thank the candidates for the Rhode Island Lieutenant Governor for supporting North Kingstown High School's Candidates Day. Following a predetermined speaking order, each candidate will be introduced briefly by a sponsoring student, after which the said candidate will have up to 1 minute to briefly to offer introductory remarks to the audience. After each candidate has offered opening remarks, students may approach the microphone in front of the stage to ask questions. Our first candidate sponsoring student will now offer a brief introduction.
I am Braden Rogers, and it is my honor to introduce Aaron Gukian, who is running for Lieutenant Governor. Mr. Gukian aims to support many small businesses around Rhode Island and is truly passionate about improving the healthcare system in our state. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce our next Lieutenant Governor, Mr. Gukian.
Good morning, it's Aaron Gukian for Lieutenant Governor. How are you? Good. How many people are registered to vote here? Oh, that's great. What a great thing. Great. For democracy. So, just so happy to be here. Obviously, my two opponents are here. Grateful to be here. Imagine a lieutenant governor's office that helps you. And it was one of the ideas I had for my platform. It's a $1.2 million budget with 8 full-time employees. And I wanted to have a help center, help people navigate through the state system. So you probably have been in the queue, forgot your username and password, probably helped your grandmother or grandfather in regards to getting online and getting the services they need. So when I decided to run, I felt that I would do a help center. Under our purview is small business, long-term health care, and emergency management. So that was the first thing I wanted to do. The second thing is qualifications. It's a $13.6 billion budget, and we're the backup quarterback. So I have a master's in business administration that I got at Johnson & Wales. I have a master's in music. I went to Connecticut College. I played basketball, and I was in the NCAA tournament, which was a great thing.
Excuse me, Mr. Gukin. I'm sorry to inform you that your allotted time has expired. If you could please bring your comments to a close.
Okay. I don't know where the light is. I just thought we had opening comments. So anyway, I have 3 daughters. My wife's a professor at Johnson & Wales University. And I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Good morning. For those of you that have not heard about me before, my name is Sabina Matos. I'm a new immigrant to the country. I actually came from the Dominican Republic in 1994. I see some fellow Dominicans in the audience. And I arrived to Rhode Island. I started working in the jewelry factories. I used to work packaging jewelry. After that, after work, I went to learn English at the International Institute, then went to Rhode Island College. Go read, make sure you apply to Rhode Island College, and I graduated with a degree in communications. I have been in an elected office for more than 10 years. I started in the City Council in Providence, representing my community, and I have been the Lieutenant Governor since last year. I'm looking forward to continue this work as Lieutenant Governor, and I'm hoping I can count on your support and your parents, so I can continue to be the Lieutenant Governor for the next 4 years. Thank you so much.
My name is Becky Ferrer, and it is my honor to introduce Mr. Ross McCurdy, who is running for Lieutenant Governor. Mr. McCurdy has former experience being a Russian linguist in the military and has been teaching for over 20 years. He strongly believes that our state should start to use more clean energy and make more efforts to improve our environment. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce our next Lieutenant Governor, Mr. Ross McCurdy.
Thanks so much. It's great to be in North Kingstown again. I was here back in 2018. Hello, I'm Ross McCurdy, running as an independent for Lieutenant Governor. Brief bio: after graduating from high school, I went right into the military, served 6 years in the Air Force, most of that as a Russian linguist back during the Cold War days. From there, I got into music. After that, I found myself in Rhode Island College, like Sabina, where I studied science, got a degree in biology, worked hard, graduated with highest honors. I became a teacher at Pontiac High School, where I teach chemistry and alternative energy. I'm in my 25th year. My students and I have had the good fortune of being able to do some cool and innovative renewable energy projects. I earned my pilot's license, and going back a few years ago, I was able to fly from Rhode Island to California using fuel made from plant seed oil. And 4 kids, married. 4 areas of focus for me: education, energy, environment, and the economy. I got into teaching to build a better future. Now I'm running for Lieutenant Governor for the same reason, to build a better future. Thanks so much for having me here today.
Thank you for your remarks. At this time, the microphone in front of the stage is available to anyone who wishes to ask questions about the candidates' views on pertinent issues. While all students are encouraged to participate, that participation is based on a first-come, first-served basis. Candidates will have 1 minute to respond to the questions in accordance with a predetermined order. We ask that all students kindly give their attention to the front, please. We ask that all students kindly give their attention to the front, please.
How are you guys planning on funding healthcare in America while also trying to make the American citizens a bit healthier?
Mr. McCurdy.
The question was on health care for American citizens, right? How to fund it? Yeah, that's a brutally difficult question to answer. A lot of people have been trying to get this question answered, and it's difficult. America is about the only first world country that doesn't have health care for its citizens. I lived in Europe for about 3 years. I lived in England, where they had health care from cradle to grave. Everyone, you're born there, you have health care, and it'd be a good way for this to be. I want to point out, the Beatles sang a song called Taxman about England. In England, and most of Europe, the gas is about twice as expensive, and taxes are about 2 to 3 times as expensive. If we want universal health care, we're going to have to pay for it. We're going to have to accept that. So that's something that we have to decide as a country, how we want to do that. Ways to pay for this: tax breaks for the rich. That's absolute garbage. Previous administrators gave the 1% richest people a big tax break. That's absolute garbage. So making sure everybody pays their fair share in taxes is hugely important for health care.
everyone in this country. And we should be looking for ways to expand Social Security and to cover all kids, which is one of the issues in which I worked this past legislation. And you have Rep. Casimiro here also, who worked really hard to make sure that that legislation was passed here in the state of Rhode Island, to make sure that every child is covered for health care. So I believe the government should be able to provide health care for everyone here in this country.
Thank you for the question. We have some of the worst reimbursement rates for doctors in the country. So the biggest thing is to try to get access to doctors. In addition, if any of your parents, my mom's a respiratory therapist, she's retired. We have nurses, nurse practitioners, CNAs that are all leaving the state. We've got to try to incentivize and keep them here. That can be through tax breaks, that can be through increasing their pay. And the federal government has given the states monies that needs to be distributed quicker, in my opinion, out to one of the biggest sectors is healthcare. So I think we have to convene, we've got to get a group of experts and get some suggestions going, and then manage that up to the legislature, like Rep. Casimiro back there, to hopefully get better legislation to get more access to healthcare for all citizens of Rhode Island. Thank you.
Good morning, thank you for being here. My question is, what are you going to do to try and increase the rate of renewable resources used for energy?
Mr. Hughes.
Well, I was a special assistant to Governor First Lady Kachiri. You might see the wind farms out there in Block Island. He spearheaded that, and I'm very proud of our administration who were able to do that. I think you can't force innovation right now. I think everyone would agree, or most people would agree, that we would love a full green economy. But especially in states like this in New England, it costs so much money. And so right now, our seniors and everyone is going to, some people are going to have to make decisions whether to heat or eat. So I think we're close. I think we need to make public-private partnerships and try to get there. But I think sometimes we've gone way too far. And I think once we're there, we're fine. But you know, there's some legislation that's across the country is trying to get rid of gas motors and trying to force this on our country. And as you've seen, everything's gone up, right? So right now, it doesn't really work. Doesn't mean we don't want to get there. So I think using wind, which is what our administration kicked off, which is a great thing. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your question. So the state of Rhode Island is a leader on wind energy right now. And just a couple of weeks ago, the governor announced a program to give incentives, rebates to those that would purchase an electric vehicle. We cannot wait in order for us to transition into clean energy. We have to make sure that we continue to provide more resources and more incentive. And I understand what Mr. Buchanan says about things getting expensive, but in reality is our planet cannot wait. We have to take action right now. We have to start transitioning out into clean energy, and an energy that's not going to continue to pollute our environment, and it's not going to continue to damage our earth. So I believe we have to continue to do things like that. More programs, more rebates, so people are able to buy electric vehicles, installing electric charging stations more available in every location, especially in communities of low income. And those are the steps that we have to take. Thanks.
I've been teaching about different types of renewable energy for 20 years. My students and I wrestle with this. How can we get off fossil fuels? And you can be a total liberal and want to get off fossil fuels because of global warming. You can be a total conservative. We should still get off fossil fuels because we are reliant on other countries. A few weeks ago, OPEC Plus, that includes Russia and Saudi Arabia, they meet and gas prices went up about 10% at the pump in an hour. Myself and my students saw this, went from 302, boom, 329, because a bunch of people at a desk 8,000 miles away decide they're going to cut production. We need to be self-reliant on energy, and the way to do this, the 4 big areas for energy: solar power, we need more solar panels; wind, we need hydroelectric power, and also geothermal. Anybody who can dig a hole in the ground can get geothermal power. We need to make a big shift. Your future depends on this, economically and environmentally. Paying for this, the Inflation Reduction Act will help, but we all need to work towards this together. Thank you.
My question is today, what is the actual duties of a lieutenant governor? How do they compare to a normal governor?
Mr. McCurry.
Great, that is an excellent question. So being the lieutenant governor, the first responsibility that you have is to be ready and prepared to take over in case the governor gets just the same way that it happened before. Governor Raimundo got appointed to Commerce and the lieutenant governor became governor. Because of that, I have been working very closely with Governor Dan McKee. Him and I work in collaborations. I know all his staff, all his team. I work with his team. I'm part of the discussion that he has. So the offices are independently here in Rhode Island, but we work in collaborations because we learn, seeing what happens this past 2 years, that is in the best interest of the people of the state of Rhode Island to have the offices working in collaborations. But the offices have different roles and responsibility. The Lieutenant Governor does a lot of work with the military family, with the Long-Term Care Coordinated Council, with making sure that emergency management is prepared so we are able to advise the governor in case of an emergency.
Thank you for the question. Obviously, she did a good job sort of articulating it. Yes, it's a backup quarterback, as I said, and sometimes with Bob Healy, who ran, he said to abolish the position, and we run separately. So it's not the same ticket like president and vice president. So you can vote differently. You can vote for governor and lieutenant governor. Bottom line is it's emergency management, small business, long-term health care. You try to support the governor and any interests that they have. I worked for a governor. I was a special assistant, and it's a massive job. So to have somebody that you can offload some of those responsibilities, that would be great, and specifically to focus on the small business. I'll just say one thing. I have a friend who owns a diner, and she said that pretty soon on her menu it's going to be market price, meaning how lobster is market price. So things are so expensive, so we really need to work with our small business community. I'm sure many of your parents are employed by small businesses, so we need to advocate as much as we can for those 3 different sectors. Thank you.
Yeah, as the other candidate said, he's kind of like second place there, waiting just in case the governor dies, goes insane, or just stops coming to work. Aside from that, they run 3 or 4 boards: small business, long-term care, Alzheimer's, and emergency management. All these are important boards to get stuff done here in Rhode Island. If elected to lieutenant governor, I want to do more than that. As a teacher, I've worked beyond the school day and getting a lot of stuff done, brought money into the school. I want to do the same thing for the state, for the things that all of us care about. Education, I know you guys care about education because that's your future, and we can do things better and do things in a smart way. I've got first-hand experience with that, being in the classroom for 25 years. And also energy. We need to make that shift. We need to be energy reliant for energy security, and those things will go hand in hand. They'll help the economy, and they will also help the environment. Thank you.
I live in Warwick, and I have seen firsthand the disparity between the public schools there and here in North Kingstown. I'm lucky to be able to attend a school that's not in my district, but not all students have that opportunity. How do you plan on addressing the issue of educational justice?
I love your question. What district are you from? Warwick. Okay. At Pontiac's High School, we got a program where kids from other schools come in, and I like these kids. It's great having them. In the past, kids have been trapped by their zip code. So where you live dictates where you go to school. I think we need a lot more freedom than that, and give kids the ability to shift to different schools that have different programs that can benefit them. Some schools might not have computer science. You should be able to go to a school that has computer science. So I think school choice within the public schools is really important, and I think it helps make our public schools better places to be. So our school offers things like ags that other schools don't offer, but other schools like Cranston West have, I believe they still have automotive, which our school doesn't offer at this time. So having a bunch of innovative programs for different schools and kids being able to attend different schools that they choose, I think is huge. We're doing it now at my school, and I think we can do this across the state. Excellent question.
Thanks again for the question. I've taught in the classroom. I'm a public music school teacher. I taught for a couple of years, actually at Quinessa in North Kingstown. I was on a charter school board, Blackstone Academy in Pawtucket. So experience and qualifications matter. Public school teachers, I think, right now are getting a bad rap. I think they've had to deal with so many things, and one of the things I want to do is do a chief processing officer for multiple districts, because right now they're doing so much administrative work that it's preventing them from actually teaching, which is problematic. And I think we really have to skinny it down in regards to reading, writing, math, and sprinkles in some arts. Our scores are down in this state. I think school choice is important, but I also think we need to back up our public school teachers and not demonize them. They're doing a great job. Certain districts are really struggling. But I think it's, rather than pointing out all the problems, I think we need to get to the table and start providing solutions. So it's good to highlight the problems, but we need to get to solutions, and that's how we have to work with everybody. Thank you.
My mother was a teacher for 17 years. My sister is a teacher. I see firsthand the challenges that they go through, especially when you're teaching in a district that doesn't have enough resources and they have a lot of challenges. I believe that what we have to do is to make sure to stop our reliance on the local taxes in order to fund the school system. That is why we have so much disparity between one district and the other. I think that starting there, changing the way how we fund education and making sure that the funding is not reliant only on the local taxes is going to make a big difference on how we can improve the education to make sure that there's different options. I can tell you in my own experience in my family, I have my children, they started in charter school. My son now goes to classical in Providence, and my daughter goes to a charter school. I also have the experience of private school. I have experienced all these different options, and I think we should be able to allow those parents to have those options, to have their kids learn in the schools that they need in their community. Sorry, I'm over time, please.
You said an important part of your job was dealing with small businesses. What are some specific policies you have or would support that would help them?
Well, I want to be a problem solver. I was a business banker at the Washington Trust Company and rose to the vice president. I changed banks. So I'm very familiar with the struggles. Right now, we have a lot of licensing problems, fees. There's just so many barriers to entry. And so that's why I want to do the help center. I think right now, it's so difficult for our small businesses. So we need to give them some solutions, and I have the qualifications to do that. I think that right now, the biggest problem is the workforce. So when you get out there, we really need hard workers. I just can't wait to kind of on day one, kind of roll up my sleeves and kind of go and work with the small businesses, go on the meetings, and sort of listen. I think the last thing is people ask you how do you set your platform up. I've listened to all the small businesses. People, you start to hear all of their concerns. You get frequently asked questions. What I want to do is get those frequently asked questions, get the data, and then manage up to our great legislators and governor. So then they can provide the legislation to hopefully help them in the future. Thank you.
Lieutenant Governor Matos.
In my role of Lieutenant Governor, I have been the chair of the Small Business Advocacy Council. There, I am able to listen directly from the small business community and the challenges that they've been having. During this past 17, 18 months, I have been going together with the then director of the Office of Business Regulation, who's now is the Secretary of Commerce, Ms. Tanner, and her and I have been visiting all of the different chambers of commerce and talking to the chambers of commerce and listening firsthand what are the challenges that they're struggling with. I can tell you right now the number one challenge that they have is in finding workers is the number one issue that I hear from the small business community. So I have been working with the Department of Labor and Training, making sure that we connect them with job training opportunities so we can train those that are looking for jobs with those that have jobs available and make sure that we train individuals to meet those needs. So that's the type of work that I've been doing. Thanks.
I'm a big believer in small business. Whenever I shop, I try to do as much as I can with small business. I understand small business to some degree because for 10 years I worked in a small business. I worked in a music store. That's how I worked my way through Rhode Island College. And I've seen the big box stores come in, they lose money for a year or two, and they drive the small businesses out. Sometimes they get tax breaks, they get incentives, they come in, lower their prices, temporarily drive the big businesses out, and now they're not there anymore. Guitar Center wipes out a lot of local music stores, for example. That's just one example. And then times get hard for them, they go bankrupt. So what? They raise a bit more money. They're a big store, a big chain, raise more money, and then maybe they'll go bankrupt again. So I think they need to streamline the licenses and paperwork and make it easier for small businesses to get in business and stay in business. They need fair taxes, stop giving huge tax breaks to big corporations, and they need to have fair benefits and really do everything we can to make the small businesses thrive. They're the backbone of Rhode Island's economy, and we need to support them. Thank you.
Unfortunately, this will be our last question for this.
You guys have talked about helping students go to other schools that they choose to get a better education. But how do you guys plan on actually helping schools that are struggling financially in places with within communities that are more financially challenged? How do you plan on making those schools better? Because there are different families and people in communities that can't go to other schools, or some that can't get the transportation to go there. How do you plan on helping local public schools financially?
This goes in line to what I was talking about earlier. Right now, our school systems rely too much on the local taxes, and that is a problem. We have to make sure that we change the funding formula I have had some conversations with some of the leaders in our state and also with some of the labor leaders to talk about other ways in which we can fund our education to make sure that their district, like my district is in Providence, right? The Providence School District was taken over by the state of Rhode Island because of the conditions of the schools and the results that we were getting. Right now, the state is responsible for the education of the students in Providence. If that happens, and I can tell you, I was in the city council at the time when that happened. We were frustrated with seeing the lack of progress. And at the end of the day, as long as we're relying on the local taxes to be the one funding our education, we're not going to have the resources that are needed for districts that struggle. In a district like Providence, in which over 40% of the land doesn't pay taxes, and it's because we have universities, hospital, government building. So I wish I could tell you more, I'm out of time. Thanks.
Yeah, going over the funding formula is hugely important. Relying on local taxes solely or mostly doesn't seem to be working for all schools. It works for some schools with a good tax base, but for some other schools, they're left behind. Every single school should be a safe school, a clean school, a comfortable school, and all these schools should have good classes, good teachers, and with good opportunities to take a wide variety of different programs. Reviewing the funding formula, getting more funds from the state level to ensure that everything is fair, as well as some from the town level, but more emphasis on the state, I think is hugely important. And when people move around from schools, what we don't want is people just like bailing from certain schools to go to other schools. We want people to want to stay in those schools and have good programs and kids to be able to move around from every school because every school is a good school. Taxes, sensible taxes at the state level can help fund that more than the local level. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so we're in a crisis right now, especially in Rhode Island. We spend more per pupil than most states. So I think it's really, we need, especially as a lieutenant governor, you can lead, you can get all the leadership together, you say lead the stripes at the door, and really try to dig in on the problems. I was on the board of a charter school. My brother did Teach for America. So did my sister-in-law. So there's different ways that we can kind of look at things. I don't believe you can just start sending kids from different districts because that will create chaos. But I do believe we really need to dig in with our educators, our great educators out there, and try to help them, support them, and be safe. Safety is very important, especially in our inner cities. And it's just, there's just so many different things. But Massachusetts is a national model. So I think when we take their model and kind of bring it down to Rhode Island, and again, just kind of working on the basics. So many of our students right now are struggling with reading. So if you can't read, you can't do anything else. So we really need to work on reading first and the basics before we start talking about abstract subjects. Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to our closing remarks. Following the order of Mr. McCurdy, Mr. Kukian, and then Ms. Lieutenant Governor Matos.
First off, I want to say thank you so much for having all of us here today. This is just an outstanding event, and I don't know any other school in the state of Rhode Island that does something like this. All of you, you're young. You're going to be facing many challenges. When I was your age, we also faced challenges. Sometimes they're the same challenges. Energy crisis in the 70s. Now we seem to be having that again. The Russians were the bad guys in the 70s and the 80s. That seems to have come back again. Now you're dealing with inflation. They're double digit. You've got a lot of things that you're going to have to face. If we work together and sensibly, we can make the future as good as it can be. I also want to mention that Later on today, there's going to be a lieutenant governor debate on Pro FM radio. Through no fault of the other candidates, I wasn't included in that. I didn't meet some criteria, which they didn't tell me what it was. I want to thank all of you for including every candidate and giving them a chance to speak. That is awesome of you guys. I encourage you to learn more about every candidate in this election, research them. We've got 3 solid candidates. This is great. You've got 3 good people that you can vote for. So choose the one that you think will serve Rhode Island best. And thank you for your time. If you want to learn more about me, rossmcCurdy.com. Thank you.
Thank you again. I know you guys are getting a little restless. You know, I have 3 daughters. I grew up here in East Greenwich. My father's a local 51 plumber. My mom is a respiratory therapist. I understand the office. And as I stated, you know, I have a master's in business administration. I know credit. And so you got a choice here in this election. You know, who do you trust to take over this state if, you know, God forbid something happens or the governor is elevated? I believe it's Aaron Buchanan for lieutenant governor. And respectfully ask for your vote on November 8th. And don't forget, early voting has begun here at the end on October 19th. So you can vote in your city or town hall, or you can vote on the day of, which is November 8th. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you for this opportunity, and I want to thank my opponent for running for office. Now more than ever, democracy is on the line here in this country. And as someone that came from another country and knows the great things, I can appreciate the great things that we have here in the United States, I'm very worried about what's going to happen. I really hope that you continue to be engaged and continue to vote on every single election, because we need you active. I have been in this unelected office. I have been a public service for more than 10 years. I have passed several budgets already in the Providence City Council, and I also have been serving as the Rhode Lieutenant Governor for the past 17 months. It has been the honor of my lifetime, and I have never thought that I could do this job. I never thought that I could have this opportunity, but that only happened because my family decided to come to America and decided to come to Rhode Island. I'm very grateful of what I've been given in this country. This is the stories of my story. I don't think it can happen in another country, only the United States. But at the same time, my story is not unique, because I'm pretty sure that your families, when you look back, have similar stories of success coming to this country and becoming an American. It's truly an honor for me to serve you, and I hope you give me that opportunity for 4 more years. Thank you.
On behalf of the students and teachers at North Kingstown High School, thank you for your participation and support of our candidate staff.